Hey there, welcome to another video on math problem solving, and today we have a riddle. Okay, so it's a logic puzzle, which is more like a riddle, and let's get into it. So there are 2024 parakeets in a rainbow forest. Each one either tells the truth or always lies. Four of the parakeets say the following. So you have Polly, which says there are no blue parakeets in the forest. Molly says Polly is blue. Dolly says Polly is not blue. Holly says there are more liars than truth tellers among the four of us. Are there any blue parakeets in the forest? So, no math, no numbers, purely logic. Can you try to solve this problem? So, pause the video here and try to give it a shot. Can be a little confusing, but if you can logically think through this, it'll really build your logic muscle in your brain. Okay, welcome back. I hope you were able to go through the productive struggle to try and solve this puzzle or the riddle, and you were able to get to some place where you probably got the answer. All right, so let's get to the solution of it. Now, whenever you see a puzzle like this, it might look daunting because there are no numbers and there's a lot of words and there's a lot of logical knots that's being kind of tied into possible paradoxes. And that can be a bit overwhelming. But the key is observation, always observation. So let's take the first statement made by Polly. Right? So all Polly is saying is there are no blue parakeets in the forest. So it could be true, it could be false. You can't say much. But observe what Molly and Dolly are saying. One says Polly is blue and the other says Polly is not blue. And therefore, you can conclude that one of them has to be telling the truth and one of them has to be lying. So let's make a table here. We can tell who are the truth sayers and who are the liars. Now, if Molly were telling the truth, then Dolly definitely is lying. At the same time, if Dolly were telling the truth, then Molly is definitely lying. In essence, you have at least one for each. You definitely conclude that there's definitely one truth sayer and one liar, for sure. Now, let's look at the last statement made by Holly. This is a very interesting one. It says, there are more liars than truth tellers among the four of us. So, what Holly is saying is, if this were true, that there's three liars and one truth sayer. And since the statement itself is true, then Holly would be the one who's telling the truth, and everybody else, which is Polly, Molly, and Dolly, are all lying, which is logically absurd because Molly and Dolly both cannot be on the same side. It's impossible. This logical fallacy. This is a logical absurdity. And therefore, you can conclude that Holly has to be on the side of. So let's ignore this part. This is assuming Holly was telling the truth. So we can conclude that Holly is not telling the truth and therefore Holly has to be lying. Now, if Holly is lying, you can conclude again that there are at most two liars, which is Holly and one among Dolly or Molly. But you can't have the third one because if the third one, let's say if Polly is lying, and then you would end up having three liars against one person who's telling the truth, therefore making the statement made by Holly true again, which is a logical paradox in itself. And therefore, you can conclude that if you were rewrite the table, truth and liars, you can for sure conclude that Holly is a liar. Holly has to be a liar. And if Holly is a liar, there can only be one other person who is could also be a liar. And that has to be either Molly or Dolly, which means there's a corresponding switch there. If Molly is the liar, then Dolly is true. And if Dolly is the liar, then Molly is true. In either cases, since you have the fact that at most there can be two liars, whoever is left has to be a truth sayer, which is Polly. Now, Polly is telling the truth, and Polly is telling the truth saying there are no blue parakeets in the forest, and that has to be absolutely true. And if that is the case, then Dolly also has to be telling the truth, and therefore Molly has to be lying. So you can conclude that there are truth sayers and liars in the forest. Polly is telling the truth. Dolly is telling the truth. Holly is lying, and so is Molly. This is the only consistent logical solution that can work. and you can conclude that there are absolutely no blue parakeets in the rainbow forest. So all 2024 are not blue. I hope you like this logical puzzle riddle and you enjoyed solving this with me. If so, please do like, share, and subscribe without fail, and I'll see you in the next video.